Hi, welcome back, third graders. Welcome to our reading workshop. Today we'll be starting our 8th lesson together, and we are still working on our informational text, our nonfiction reading. So readers, we know that informational text, our nonfiction books, are sometimes usually organized in all different ways. And as a great independent reader, when we're looking over these informational text, it's important that we're being observant to the different ways that our books are being laid out for us. We're noticing that informational text, or again, nonfiction reading, looks a lot different than a typical chapter book that we're reading, right? So when we zoom in and recognize how the informational text is arranged in a different way, it's allowing us to truly learn these new facts, and to the point where then we can share it with others. So we, the last few times that we've met, we've learned that sometimes the informational text is broken down into very descriptive details. In one of our prior lessons, we were able to really focus on that. Lastly, we were able to see that sometimes the author puts things in a sequence order, which we just worked on, the first, second, third, and things like that. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to recognize information that is being compared. So comparing and contrasting. So that's what our focus will be today. Nonfiction reading, lesson 8. We're going to recognize information that is being compared in the text. And then we're going to find what is being compared to each other. Then we're going to organize that information. And like we've been doing different charts, now with the comparing and contrasting, we can make a Venn diagram, or double bubble, or we can make a 3-column chart, A, both, and B, okay? And sometimes when you're comparing things, you might use words like both, same, different, as well as, those are a few keywords that we might use. So that's what our main focus of today's lesson is to find something in our informational books that we're reading that is comparing something, okay? So we're going to really pay close attention to how the structure of our different books are laid out. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you using our mentor text, Penguins. We briefly looked over this section once before, and as I was perusing through to find a section in here in this book that had some comparing and contrasting, I believe that this page is the best fit for that. And that was the part where they talked about many penguins. Okay, so I'm just going to read this over again to us. I know we've heard it once before, a few lessons ago, but just to refresh your memory. Many penguins. Now listen closely to possibly some of the penguins that they're comparing and contrasting. This is all about penguins, so the main idea is penguins, but we know we have different penguins within the grouping of penguins, okay? And we want to think, how can we make a double bubble and compare a certain penguin to another penguin, all right? Penguins have different shapes and colors. Some penguins have only black and white feathers. Others, such as the emperor penguin on the left, have brightly colored patches of feathers. Special head markings help penguins recognize other members of their species. Some penguins, such as the rockhopper, have long crests of feathers on the top of their head. Some crests are yellow and others are orange. Penguins also differ in size. The largest is the emperor penguin. They're about 4 feet tall. The smallest is the blue penguin, and it's the size of a duck. All right, and then we know that we had other penguins also on this page, and there's also little blurbs below them that tell you about them. So to save some time, I did create the Venn diagram with ideas that I was able to pull from this page. So as a reader, I took a minute and I thought, what's being compared here? Is there anything being compared? And I found a few things, but I want to zoom it in to make a double bubble of just 2. So I would like to do a Venn diagram on one, the emperor penguin. We read a little bit about what they're like, and then I want to compare the emperor penguin to the little blue penguin. Okay, so here's what I came up with. I created a double bubble chart right here, and I labeled my Venn diagram Emperor Penguin, Blue Penguin. So what was one thing that is the same for an emperor penguin and a blue penguin? Well, we know that both penguins have what? Flippers, okay? So one thing I wrote, they both have flippers. And we know that both penguins, they also have beaks. And we know that they both swim, okay? And then we also know that they hatch from eggs. Now, some of these facts that I included on here, did we read all of these facts just on this page? No. But don't you have knowledge from what you've been reading these last several days? Sure. So I included some of those facts that I know is true for whatever kind of penguin. And that's okay for you to add that in. So I added those in. But now we need to know specific things related just to the emperor penguin and just to the blue penguin. And as I look back into my reading, it mentions something here about emperor penguins, and it said the emperor penguin has brightly colored patches of feathers. And you can see the brightly colored patches here. So I know that our little blue penguin, do they have brightly colored patches? No. So on my Venn diagram, I wrote brightly colored patches of feathers. And we also know, looking at the little penguin, what type of feathers do they have? Well, the blurb under here says they have blue feathers. So over on the opposite side, I wrote blue feathers for the blue penguin. Also in our reading, they talked about the size. They compared the emperor penguin to the blue penguin when we read this part. And they said that the emperor penguin was what? Do you remember? The tallest. Do you remember how tall? 4 feet. Well, we know the little blue penguin's not that, so that's a comparison. So I was able to put on mine for emperor penguin, tallest, 4 feet. And in our reading about the blue penguin, we also read that the blue penguin is the size of a duck. So we know that's much smaller than 4 feet. So I was able to write on my Venn diagram, for blue penguin, I put smallest, and in parentheses, I put the size of a duck. So I was able to take information from what I was reading and compare and contrast some of the details, because this was all about penguins in general, and they broke it apart. You can also, if you'd like to try something different than a Venn diagram, you can also create a 3-column chart. It's basically the same thing. A would represent emperor penguin. B is my other thing I'm comparing, blue penguin. And where it says both, you'd put what is similar for both of them. And I just put the exact same information down. So I just have whatever I have on the one side goes here. So you can do your graphic organizer either way. So what your job today, readers, is when you are reading, I want you to find an area, and you might have to go to a few different pages and skim read. Find an area where they're talking about your topic, but comparing it to something else, comparing and contrasting. And then I want you to try out one of these charts. I want you to try out a Venn diagram or the 3-column chart, whatever one you would prefer. And that's something that you can share with your teacher so we can see that you're participating and trying your best with your reading. And when you do these activities, this will also help with you remembering what you read so that you can share it with others. One final piece, just to help you through your lesson. After watching this, there is your student chart here. This is also linked in our learning plans like usual. And this is exactly what I did in going through the steps of finding this in my book. So you can look at this, and this is your guide of your bullet points of what you can do when you're wanting to compare and contrast the information that is displayed to you. Okay, so that's one more skill that we just learned, that in our informational text, sometimes we have to recognize what is being compared to us, because sometimes our authors will share the information in all different ways, right? So I want you to give that a try. All right, readers, happy reading. Try and at least fit in 20 to 30 minutes today to read something on your own. Hopefully it's still centered around nonfiction, and I hope you're doing great. So proud of you. Keep up the good work. I'll talk to you soon.